My sister's pregnancy took my room, my parents sent me away, and a decade later they needed me when I was 14. My sister, Leela, then 17 and now 27, was the shining star of our family. Our parents' dad, 45, and mom, 43, adored her. But everything shifted when Leela announced she was pregnant by her deadbeat boyfriend, Zane, 19. You'd expect my parents to be upset, but no. Mom embraced her, teary-eyed, thrilled about becoming a young grandmother and calling it a family blessing. Dad, as usual, sat silently, staring at his plate. That's his classic move, never challenging Mom. I sat there, jaw dropped, at the dinner table. If I, at 14, had announced a pregnancy, I'd have been shipped off to boarding school or worse. But Leela, she got hugs and praise. That summed up my childhood. Leela was always the favorite. A C in math cost me gaming privileges for a month, while Leela failed 2 classes, and Mom excused it as emotional struggles, even buying her a new phone to lift her spirits. The double standards in our house were maddening. I could fill a book with how Leela was favored, but I'll skip the details. Zane was a total loser, fired from 4 jobs in a year, showing up last Christmas with a gift for Leela that still had the security tag. We all ignored it, but come on. He'd barge into our house, raid the fridge, and act like we owed him, with a tacky neck tattoo reading, "No regrets." Ironic, given his life, he drove a beat-up Honda that stank of burnt oil. Zane first came over for dinner 3 months before Leela's pregnancy news. He bragged about skipping college because entrepreneurs don't need degrees, while working at a car wash and living in his mom's basement. My parents nodded like he was spouting wisdom. Dad gave me a look like, "Is this guy serious?" but stayed silent. I once overheard Zane on the phone in our backyard, admitting he'd been kicked out by an ex for stealing her dad's credit card. When I told Mom, she brushed it off, saying, "People deserve second chances, sweetie. Zane's struggling." Struggling seemed to be his lifelong state. Growing up as the less favored child made me question myself. Was I the problem? If I were more like Leela, outgoing, popular, charming, would my parents treat me equally? I tried hard to win their approval. Good grades, a tidy room, joining activities they might care about. Nothing worked. Leela could have torched the house and they'd blame faulty wiring. When I was 12 and Leela was 15, we had clashing events one evening, my science fair and her choir recital. Guess which they attended. Leela's recital, of course, while I stood alone by my renewable energy project, which I'd worked on for weeks. My teacher asked where my parents were. I lied about traffic. I won second place, but they never knew or cared. A week after Leela's baby announcement, Mom called a family meeting, never a good sign for me. Leela arrived 20 minutes late, whining about back pain from carrying a human. Mom rushed to get her a pregnancy pillow while I rolled my eyes. We sat in the living room, Mom and Dad on the big couch, Leela on the love seat, and me on a creaky dining chair, a perfect metaphor for my place in the family. Then came the bombshell. They were reassessing our living arrangements for the baby. I was being sent to my grandparents in Florida so Leela could turn my room into a nursery. "It's temporary," Mom muttered, avoiding my gaze. "Leela needs our support." I looked to Dad, hoping he'd stand up for me. He just said, "It'll be good for you to spend time with Grandma and Grandpa. They have a nice pool." As if a pool made up for being exiled. Leela smirked, saying, "Be grateful. You won't deal with night feedings or diaper smells." Then she added, "Besides, I always wanted your room. It gets better sunlight for the baby." I was stunned. They planned my future like I wasn't there, like I was furniture to be rearranged. I waited for someone to say, "Just kidding," but no one did. "When do I leave?" I asked, voice cracking. Mom checked her phone calendar. "Grandma and Grandpa said you can come anytime, but maybe after the school year." 6 weeks to say goodbye to my friends, my school, the comic shop I loved, the park where I was getting good at skateboarding, my whole world. "Do I get a say?" I asked, knowing the answer. "Honey," Mom said in her fake caring tone, "sometimes families make tough choices. This is best for everyone." "Everyone but me," I shot back. "Don't be dramatic," Leela snapped, rolling her eyes. "It's not prison. Florida has beaches." The moment that broke me was Mom planning to repaint my dark blue room, chosen after weeks of begging for the baby in cheerful yellow. She was already picking out my posters to toss and where the crib would go, all while I sat there. "What about my school, my friends? Football tryouts?" I asked, struggling to stay composed. "You'll make new friends," Mom said dismissively. "Florida schools are probably better anyway." Leela was texting, ignoring my life unraveling. That night, I locked myself in my room and cried for the first time in years. No one noticed. The weeks that followed were brutal. Leela started moving baby stuff into my room before I'd even packed. She and Mom shopped for baby clothes, while I was told we couldn't afford new sneakers for Florida. One day, my bookshelf was emptied, my books boxed up in the hallway. "We need it for baby stuff," Mom said. "You're not taking them to Florida, right? We'll store them in the attic." Those books, bought with my savings from flea markets, were my escape, filled with my notes in the margins, now discarded. Zane was around more, acting like he owned the place. He wore my favorite Bulls hoodie once. When I confronted him, he shrugged, saying, "Chill, kid, you don't need it in Florida." I wanted to punch him. Mom saw and said nothing. Actually, she told me not to make a fuss. Zane grinned behind her. I never got the hoodie back, he probably sold it. Things got worse. Mom and Leela planned the nursery in front of me, discussing moving my desk or bed to erase my existence. My friends didn't get it. Most thought Florida sounded cool, like I'd live on a beach or see alligators. Only my best friend, Liam, understood. "They're sending you away because your sister's pregnant? That's messed up," he said. It felt good to be validated, but it changed nothing. One night, I tried talking to Dad alone in the garage. "This isn't fair. Why do I have to go? Why can't Leela and Zane get their own place?" He sighed, looking worn out. "Sometimes families make sacrifices. Your mom thinks this is best." "What do you think?" I pressed. He shook his head. "What I think doesn't matter here, son." His defeated look showed he'd given up fighting Mom long ago, maybe before I was born. I made one last attempt to stay, confiding in my school counselor. She was concerned and called my parents in. Mom played the perfect parent, talking about my wonderful opportunity to bond with my grandparents and the family's sacrifices. The counselor bought it. Outside, Mom gripped my shoulder painfully and hissed, "Don't ever try to embarrass this family again." The final straw was overhearing Leela on the phone. "Yeah, perfect. The kid's gone and the baby gets the whole nursery. Mom's helping at night so I can still go out." I wasn't her sibling whose life was upended, just an obstacle to her perfect setup. The day before I left, I visited my old treehouse, built with Dad when I was 7, a rare memory of us together. It was my sanctuary, but someone had torn down the ladder, spray-painted "Zane was here," and left beer cans and cigarette butts inside. My childhood symbol was ruined like everything else. That last night, Mom helped Leela register for baby gear, Dad watched TV, and I ate a pizza I bought myself, sitting on the floor of my nearly empty room, my bed already replaced by a crib. At 14, I moved to Florida to live with my grandparents, then 68 and 70. They treated me better than my parents ever had. High school was tough. I was the new kid with a weird northern accent. On my first day, a classmate asked why I moved. When I explained, he said, "Dude, that's messed up." It was the first time someone validated that my situation wasn't normal. I nearly cried in the cafeteria. The first month was lonely. I ate lunch alone and went straight home. Grandma asked about my day, my classes, my teachers, not just small talk, but genuine interest. One afternoon, while doing homework, I broke down crying. Grandma sat beside me, rubbing my back until I calmed down. "What your parents did was wrong," she said. "You're allowed to be angry, but don't let it consume the good in you." Grandpa was great, too. He taught me woodworking in his garage workshop, praising my knack for intricate tasks, something Dad never did. My first project, a simple wooden box, was displayed on their mantel like a treasure. He bragged about it to everyone, and I played off my embarrassment, but it felt amazing to have someone proud of me. My parents barely contacted me. Mom called monthly for small talk, then showed me FaceTime photos of Leela's baby, Sophie, for 20 minutes. Dad would say, "Be good to your grandparents," and hang up. Leela only called when she needed something, like convincing my grandparents for a bigger check for Sophie's christening gift. On my 15th birthday, my parents sent a late card with a $25 iTunes gift card, and "No, we miss you." Meanwhile, my grandparents threw me a party with homemade cake and a new laptop for school. I adjusted to Florida, joined the computer club, and made friends who accepted me. Jadden, a neighbor, understood family drama from his parents' divorce. I got into computers, teaching myself coding, hardware troubleshooting, and graphic design. Grandpa bought broken devices from flea markets for me to fix, saying, "If you break it, it's already broken. No harm done." By 16, I was getting as, working part-time at a grocery store and saving every penny to never rely on my parents again. Grandpa taught me about investing, fueling my goal of independence. Working at Best Buy was a game changer. I earned good money, learned tech skills, and gained confidence with customers. My manager, Rick, mentored me, giving me complex repair jobs. "You've got a knack for solving problems," he'd say. I joined the track team, dated a girl named Chloe, who later moved to California but stayed a friend and life normalized. The pain of my family's rejection dulled, though it never vanished. At 17, I visited home for Thanksgiving at Grandma's request. My old room was unrecognizable. Pink walls, crib, changing table, no trace of me. Leela lived there with Sophie, a toddler, while Zane, jobless, played video games. Everyone acted like my exile was normal. Mom talked about the renovated mall like I'd just been away for summer camp. Dad apologized privately, saying he should have handled things better, but it was too late. I couldn't wait to return to Florida. My grandparents' house felt more like home. My parents attended my high school graduation at 18, acting like the past 4 years didn't happen. Mom bragged about Leela's struggles as a young mom, blaming Zane's constant leaving and returning. Leela lost retail jobs for being sick, code for hungover, but Mom painted her as a saint. At the graduation dinner, I announced I was staying in Florida, buying a house, and starting a computer repair business. Mom was shocked. Dad nodded like he expected it. "You don't want to come home?" Mom asked. "That's not my room anymore," I said. "My home is here." Grandpa gave me a $5,000 check for my business, calling it starter capital, and telling me not to tell Grandma, who thought it was just rent money. "I believe in you," he said. That night I realized family isn't blood, it's the people who value you. My grandparents were my true family. From 18 to 24, I built my computer repair business into a thriving IT consulting firm. I owned an apartment, a new car, and had savings, not rich but stable. Starting out was tough. I lived in a tiny studio above an Indian restaurant, worked long hours, took online courses for certifications, and pitched businesses on weekends. I fixed PCs, removed viruses, and recovered data, undercutting big repair shops. I biked to house calls with tools in my backpack, unable to afford a car. My breakthrough came when I recovered data from a local accounting firm's broken server for a few $100s, compared to thousands quoted by a big IT company. They hired me monthly, my first real contract. Word of mouth grew, and by 20, I hired my first employee, a college student skilled in networking. By 22, I had an office and 3 employees. Now at 24, I have a team of 5, including an office manager. Running my own business gave me control. No one could push me out or make me feel worthless. I built something entirely mine. Leela, now 27, still lived at home with 10-year-old Sophie. She dropped out of community college, claiming motherhood was too demanding. Zane, in and out of her life, got another girl pregnant when Sophie was 3 and spent time in jail for driving without a license and carrying an illegal weapon. Leela worked odd jobs, cashier, waitress, receptionist, but never lasted, always blaming strict bosses or rude customers. Dad hinted her real issue was laziness. Why work when my parents bailed her out? I sent Sophie a tablet with educational games and ebooks for her 7th birthday. Leela texted a photo of Sophie with it, saying, "Thanks for the iPad." It wasn't an iPad, but whatever. She didn't thank me personally or acknowledge the effort I put into choosing it. It stung, showing nothing had changed. Leela was still selfish, enabled by my parents. Mom and Dad, now 53 and 55, raised Sophie while Leela worked part-time at a nail salon. Mom called her a free spirit needing time to find herself. Dad, exhausted, delayed retirement to support Leela despite his back pain and high blood pressure. I kept minimal contact, Christmas cards and birthday texts. I sent Sophie gifts but never met her, a strange reality. My grandparents remained my biggest supporters. Grandpa's death 2 years ago from a heart attack hit me hard. Leela skipped his funeral, claiming she couldn't find a babysitter for Sophie, though my parents could have watched her. Mom played the grieving daughter, despite barely contacting Grandpa for years. Dad seemed genuinely sad and helped with funeral arrangements. On my 23rd birthday, Leela texted, "Happy birthday, bro," followed by a request for $800 for car repairs. I ignored it. She sent more messages, accusing me of abandoning the family and endangering Sophie's safety. I replied, "Ask Zane or Mom and Dad. They're your support system." She stopped texting. "People like Leela only remember you when they need something. I built a life I'm proud of, friends, occasional dates, and a growing business. I'm happy unlike my childhood. Sometimes I wonder about a world where my parents made Leela and Zane figure things out instead of sending me away. Would I be the same? My early independence made me resilient, but I wouldn't wish it on anyone. One Tuesday, Mom called unexpectedly. Leela had a car accident, broken leg, fractured hip, out of work for 6 to 8 months. Zane left for good, moving to California with an online girlfriend. They were drowning in medical bills, Dad's hours were cut, and Mom's arthritis worsened. "We hoped you could visit, reconnect, meet Sophie," Mom said, her voice weak. "Your dad misses you." Translation: their golden child was down, and they remembered their other kid could be useful. I stared at my phone, tempted to ignore her. 10 years, and they only called because they needed me. But I thought of Sophie, a 10-year-old caught in their mess, none of it her fault. Part of me also wanted them to see who I'd become without them. I called back, saying I'd visit in a few weeks and stay in a motel, not their house, never again. Walking into my old home felt surreal. The walls were covered with photos of Sophie, Leela, and my parents, only 2 of me, my graduation and an old school picture from age 12. My former room was a pink princess nursery. Leela, leg in a cast, barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, you actually came," she said, annoyed I'd interrupted her. Mom hovered nervously. Dad hugged me, whispering, "I missed you." He looked older, worn down. Sophie was a bright spot, excited, curious, bombarding me with questions about coding and games. That night, they got to the point. Medical bills were piling up. Leela couldn't work, Zane was gone, and they couldn't afford Sophie's private school or the mortgage. "We know it's a big ask," Mom said, "but you're doing so well with your business." Leela chimed in, "Must be nice having all that freedom and cash, bro." I held my tongue. My sister, who never faced consequences. My mom, who enabled her. My dad, who never fought for me but seemed broken now. "I'll help," I said. Mom cried with relief. "But on my terms," I added. "I'll pay Sophie's essentials and medical bills directly, not through you. And the money goes to Dad." Leela's smile vanished. "What, you don't trust us?" she snapped. "Honestly, no," I said, glaring at her and Mom. Mom bristled, but Dad nodded, understanding. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, get more experiences.